Hello everyone, this is Venom, and we are here today with a Dragons Dogma II video, and unfortunately it is not a happy one. Currently, as you can see, I'm on the Steam page for Dragons Dogma II, and you can see that the reviews right now are mixed. Now, today is March 22nd, so it's only been 24 hours since the game has released. In fact, 27 hours actually, and people are upset with the game for a few reasons. Now, the first reason is something you probably heard about already, and that is the microtransactions that are on the game. Now, I'm going to go and scroll down here so you guys can actually see everything on here. The game itself, the base game, is $70, so it is one of those premium games that is now, not $60, it's $70. So they are charging $70 for it. However, it's also full of microtransactions. Now, this is a twofold issue. The first fold being that this is a single-player game with microtransactions in it. And the second being that the items you get for these microtransactions are not good at all. These are items you will get in-game very quickly just by playing it. If I were to compare this to anything, it would be the starter pack that Destiny 2 tried to pawn off on players as a starter pack a few months ago. That was basically full of a bunch of random bullshit that would not help any player start, and that really you would be able to get just for a few days or a few hours of playing. And it was full of random exotic weapons that, weren't really going to help you start off with anything. It had some random crafting materials that weren't really going to help you get to a full set of enhanced armor. It was really looked like a hodgepodge of crap that they were selling for $15. If I were to akin this to anything, it would be that. This is basically a bunch of rift crystals, wake stones. This is all stuff you're going to get just by playing the game. Now, I've seen a few reactions about this. I've seen either people just completely upset that this is in the game, or I've seen people that are basically saying Capcom's been doing this for years and people are only just not getting upset about it. Now, I have, of course, seen a few people saying it's not that big of a deal. We don't pay attention to those people because it is a big deal. Microtransactions in any game is a big deal, especially a game that's not free-to-play. Free-to-play, that's a whole different model. But microtransactions in any game that's not free-to-play, or extremely discounted, like a $5 game or something like that, maybe. But this is a single-player title with microtransaction, and quite frankly, it's unacceptable. Now, I clicked over and I want to make sure that I'm sticking to my review criteria. And this is not a review, by the way. This is not a review. And by the way, I do enjoy the game. I'm loving the game. I'm playing it. I'm not near the end game yet. I'm taking my time playing it. But this issue is something that has to be talked about. But when I go over any games, whether it be Helldivers or Destiny 2, whatever's coming out, monetization is one of the things I take a look at. And single-player microtransactions are on that list, along with things like loot boxes, battle passes, cosmetic items, or functional items. These are essentially functional in-game currency in a single-player game. And this is a premium game. This is not a free-to-play game. Now, I mentioned that people talked about other games Capcom have done this with, and I'm going to go ahead and bring up another game here. This is Monster Hunter World. I'm going to go ahead and go to the DLC page here. You can see Monster Hunter World has got a bunch of DLC for it too, and it's a bunch of random emotes and a bunch of random things you can actually add to your armor, that like little dangles that add to the end, like $2 for something you're barely going to see. Now, we complained when this came out for Monster Hunter World. We complained when this was happening for Monster Hunter Rise. In fact, I remember getting a lot of backlash from Monster Hunter Rise with adding in some weapon skins, and they were potentially going to be not cosmetic but functional, and people essentially gave the people complaining about it a lot of shit, saying, well, it's just cosmetics, not a big deal. I don't know how long or how many times we have to say this, that it doesn't matter if it's something is cosmetic or functional or not. Microtransaction in a premium game are unacceptable in any form. Now, DLC, that's one thing. If it's actually DLC. Now, keep in mind, yes, this is labeled as DLC. This is not DLC. These are microtransactions. Don't get it started. There is no in-game or in-game activities added to this. There is no additional playtime added to this. These are emotes, these are skins, and these are things that dangle up the end of your weapons. You're not going to get any additional playtime out of any of this stuff. It's all visual. Now, that's only one of the issues with Dragons Dogma 2. Sorry, I'm talking a lot. I'm trying to get this out pretty quickly. I am kind of tired. But it is the biggest one on my issue, or on my list of issues, because of how pervasive this is. Capcom has basically stepped in a hornet's nest because people were really looking forward to Dragons Dogma 2. Granted, this is not going to hinder you not getting these at all. And like I said, even if you do buy these items, you're probably going to regret it because you're going to get these in like a day of playing it anyway. So it's not really going to do anything for you. And the items you can buy with these, if you were to go ahead and buy them when the game starts, you're going to outgrow those items so quickly, you're going to wonder what you spent that money on. The crystals that you can buy are called rift crystals, and they essentially let you hire pawns from around the community. So you can actually hire someone's pawn who's a higher level than you and take them with you. Now, they will help you out temporarily, but if you start off the game and you say hire level 20 pawn or so, you're going to be level 20 within like a day. You're going to outgrow that very, very quickly. So it's nothing you're even going to be able to keep. You're eventually going to get rid of those pawns. So even if you were to say get a max level pawn or close to max level pawn, you're still going to outgrow it eventually. So that is an issue. Now, that's just one of the few issues that we're going to talk about. There were a couple others as well. Like I said, the microtransaction was one. Performance is another one. Performance is probably a bigger issue for people than the microtransactions. Like I said, for me, microtransactions are my big bee in my bonnet, but yeah, we're going to talk about all of it. But yeah, the game it's not very well optimized. There's a lot of frame rate drops. At one point, I was trying to turn in a quest, and I actually had to sit there and wait for about 3 minutes for all the characters to actually pop into the bar, and the quest person I had to turn into was not popping into the bar. I had to leave and come back and keep waiting for all the actual people to spawn in, and they were just slowly fading in before I could even turn in my quests. There are people complaining about, let me go back to the start page here, you can see what some of the complaints are. There are people that their games are crashing. There are people that are running into bugs, like getting stuck in the floors. These things are obviously unacceptable. Now, I haven't seen too many bugs, but they have still been reported. Here's one. Hey, Capcom, you can purchase a good review DLC for $1.99. That's funny, so. But yeah, the performance is not there. Now, we did hear about some performance issues from the early review copies. Keep in mind that we're getting reports that the people with early review copies did not see a DLC store on their copies. It was hidden. So they did not see any of these microtransactions, so I can't really fault them for that. But they did mention that there were some performance issues, and it looks like that is fairly true, and the community is speaking out about it. They're not very happy about it. Now, the next thing is there's two more very, very weird issues with the game. I say issues, they are design choices, and they are very, very poorly received right now. Dragons Dogma works on essentially an autosave system. You can manually save, it autosaves itself too. You can actually manually save, and it'll save when you go to ends. You cannot choose where you reload. Like, it's not like a Skyrim save, you can make multiple different saves. You've got one save file, basically. And then it's going to either reload from your random save or your manual save. They take up the same slot. Or it's going to reload from the last time you slept at an inn. And there could be different reasons why you would want to reload from there versus the last save. The last save you did could be right before an ambush. It's impossible for you to get past and survive. And you can just reload from the inn instead, which might be hours of time lost, but you can do it. But there's only the one save file. And players are, even if they're getting to the end of the game or people had reviewed it already, if they want to start a new character, they currently cannot do that. You cannot make more than one character. Or you might say to me, hey, why don't you just go ahead and delete that character? If you're done with it, go ahead and, get rid of it, delete it. Guess what? You cannot delete your character. And that is the fourth issue, is that you cannot restart your game. You cannot restart a new game. Now, as of right now, I don't know if uninstalling the game and reinstalling it will do it. Probably if you delete all that data. But then you're having to uninstall and reinstall the game and re-delete or delete all that data. That's not a very good design choice. Now, I understand what they were coming from with the autosave system. They don't want you to scum save. It's something akin to Elden Ring. It's going to save automatically. If you die, you just have to deal with the death. If you lose your runes, you're just going to have to eat that loss. It does add some to the gameplay in Elden Ring. It does that here as well. However, they've taken it 3 steps too far, and it's kind of hard to... I can't even say this is an overlook. This is just a very, very poor design choice. I do wonder if this was something that was just overlooked, but it's something that's so simple, it really does kind of boggle the mind. But that being said, that's what's going on right now. That's why you're seeing mixed reviews. That's why people are freaking out about Dragons Dogma 2. The gameplay, I'm enjoying quite a bit. The story, I'm enjoying so far. And again, I'm not anywhere near to where I'm ready to make a review on it. I'm going to make initial impressions of it about midway through, so probably the next day or two. I don't want to give any impressions on it when I'm still in chapter 1, or I'm still doing some of the base quests. I can talk about stuff like gameplay. I can talk about some of the vocations. I can talk about what it's like to travel around. There are some issues definitely in the game, but I will get to those within the next week when I put out my initial review. But I wanted to make sure I talked about this issue because it does seem that gamers are pushing back about it. Now, of course, there are a lot of different controversies going on in gaming right now. You got the Sweet Baby Ink thing. You've got microtransactions going on in games left and right. You've got Bungie laying off their staff. You've got Sony laying off staff. You got Bungie being potentially taken over. You got big games like Destiny 2 failing. You've got crap going on like Marathon potentially having some issues. We've got all these different releases coming out here recently that are either buggy as crap or full of microtransactions or not what were promised to the players. And it looks like Capcom has really stepped in here. They put out microtransactions for the games before, and people really did. There were people that were just like, hey, just let it go. It's not a big deal. People have spoken out about this before, and again, I've been one of them. I've been an advocate of no microtransactions in these games, and it looks like they really are just stepping in it now. People are speaking out more and more about it, and the performance issues of microtransactions together, they're both really unacceptable. Microtransactions for a whole other separate reason, but the performance of the game is really, really bad. Now, the microtransactions are one I'll harp on more versus the performance because I haven't had it that bad, but I have seen some people that are just barely able to play the game, and it is pretty bad for them. So, that being said, that is what's going on right now with Dragons Dogma II. I can't really fault the player base for this. I mean, obviously, there's nothing to fault them for. I mean, this is not like just random complaints. It's not them bitching just to bitch. This is legitimate issues with the game, and Capcom has put out a response about it. Let me see if I can pull it up real quick. It was essentially, there were the issues, they're looking into fixing the shit. Nothing substantial. They did come out and say what parts of the DLC you can earn in game, which doesn't really make it better. 99% of what the DLC is, you can earn in game. There are a couple items where you can't, and they're not really necessary or really add much to the game anyway. Even the stuff from like I think the special edition, which it turns out, the items weren't really that great. I do have a special edition too, so I'm disappointed in that. I was a victim of that. It is what it is. I knew what I was getting into. That being said, plenty of people who have never played Dragon's Dogma before didn't know what these crystals were, don't know what these wake stones were. They run into that head first, not understanding that these are basically items that are not even worth selling. So it's really weird that Capcom would risk putting microtransactions in a single-player game for items that are not really going to do much in-game. They're not going to give you a huge advantage. But there's so much downside and so much backlash for them doing this. I think they just might be used to putting microtransactions in games and getting away with it, and it's just not flying right now. So that's what's going on with Dragon Dogma 2 right now, guys. Like I said, I am enjoying the game. Don't let this discourage you from buying the game if you want to. If you buy the base game, you don't have to worry about any of that crap. You're not going to miss out on anything by not getting the DLCs. You're not going to miss out on anything by not buying the deluxe edition. The base game itself is still fun. However, I completely understand if you also want to wait for the performance issues to be improved as well, because there are serious performance issues. If you've got a slower computer, or if your computer you think may not be up to snuff, I would go ahead and hold off on buying it until the performance issues are fixed. Capcom did say again that they are actively working on it, but who knows what that could actually mean. It basically sounded like bog standard response to any issue that comes out with any game. So right now we can probably go ahead and say that we haven't got any substantial response from Capcom. We got the bog standard they probably cut and pasted from their, in case for emergency list, and that's what we currently have right now. So when we get more news on it, we will let you guys know. We'll let you know if anything substantial happens with the game, or if we hear anything else, if any other controversies pop up. Every game releases these days have got controversies, and unfortunately there are a lot of the same things. And it just tells you what the state of gaming is right now too. This is, well, we can get at that into another video, but that'll be a discussion that we can have during the podcast or during one of our discussions. So that'll do it for today, guys. Thank you all for coming by. I will be playing Dragon's Dogma some more as well. I am still enjoying the game, even with all the issues with it, so I'm not going to let that stop me. But I am still going to go ahead and report on it, because there are plenty of people who this would stop. The microtransactions and the performance is enough to where people who don't want that stuff in their game would not buy it. So I 100% agree with them if they don't want to do that. So thank you all for coming by, and I will see you on the next video.